Okay, so I'd like to welcome our guest for today. I'll introduce you to psychotherapist Amanda Fludd, who's an LCSW-R. She's a business owner of Amanda Fludd Therapist and Mindset Coaching. And so terrific having you here, Amanda. I
Good to be
know,
here.
yeah, there's so much that you are doing and so much inspiration that you have to offer. I understand that you provide multiple services, including therapy to adolescents, young adults, professionals, also to groups dealing with issues like depression, anxiety, trauma, relationship stress, and even more, everyday stress. And you also have a hybrid online and in person, both coaching and courses to your work, right? That component of your work. And you coach women who want to continue to grow and work on their own self-development. I think it's amazing that you are doing all of these things. And I know that it takes work. It takes, the actual labor of it, but also takes like getting a certain amount of emotional work to get to the place of actually being able to do this stuff and put yourself out there in the way that you do. I know you have, I don't know if I mentioned, but you also have a merchandise component of your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A little bit of everything. I dabble everywhere.
Love it. So I have a few questions for you. So the first question, when did you start your business?
I think for me, it's kind of always been in motion, but I didn't even really know, right? And just the idea of dreaming bigger and I think just doing more. But I would say officially just in 2018 was really when I got started. And it wasn't even about a business when I got started. It was really more about I had this primary job, but I wanted to earn a little bit more, right? It was good, but it wasn't great, right? And I started just kind of independently as a private therapist doing some private work and really had no idea that this was a possibility for me and that this was something that we can do as a social worker, as a psychotherapist. And just from taking that motion forward, it really kind of grew from just an independent contractor to everything that you just mentioned. And again, like 3 years. So it's our third year in and it's like, boom.
Rapid growth, Amanda. I think that's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So what's your why? Why did you want to work with women this way? What drove you to want to do these things?
It started really from that primary day job. Like I worked for a children's psychiatric facility, and it really just bothered me seeing folks get to the end of the line, right? This is a hospital. So, folks were struggling in the community. They weren't getting the services that they needed in the community. There weren't skill services in the community. A lot of it was our minority children and families that weren't getting what they needed. And just because of that, they ended up in a hospital, in a facility. Our young people couldn't go home. And I just found that just truly sort of devastating. And what I recognized was I don't want to intervene at the end. I want to intervene a little bit sooner. And then what I also recognized was I was really in a position to have access to more skills, training, support that most clinicians don't have in the community. So I wanted to come back to the community and really just give back, right? And I always came with this idea of this model of, yes, I want to serve, but I want to figure out how to support other clinicians so that they can also serve a little bit better, they can develop their skills a little bit better, and have a space where particularly both clinicians of color and clients, minority clients, had a space to be, right? Even though we see everybody, though that population was particularly important for me because that was the majority of our population that we saw in the hospital. So it was just kind of wanting to do more sooner was really what kicked it off for me. And that's always been just the core of my why is someone needs this, someone's not doing it. How can you take what you have and not just sit at a desk behind a wall, but come into where the people are and serve. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's terrific. And the fact that you're actually working with youth really speaks to you doing exactly what you wanted to do, right? Like getting in there younger and being able to work and help people to heal and to grow. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I think we get to do it in many different ways, right? So we get to do it working with young people, we get to do it working with families, and then it's just evolved to where it doesn't just have to be about dysfunction, which is really what, therapy is at the end of the day. Like everything just is not working for you, and you need to come to a therapist. But then there's a little bit of room for work in the coaching realm where we can support the women behind the mother, right? The woman behind the child, right? Or just the everyday woman that wouldn't necessarily get all these great skills and tools that we provide as therapists, but
Mhm.
they need it too, right? Like we all need support, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, terrific. So I know that, you've done all of this massive amount of work in 3 years, right? Like that's just amazing, Amanda. I just have to say that.
I think it's kind of
Um,
crazy as I say it out loud, actually.
it is a lot, right? But I think it really speaks to your compassion, your dedication, and your work ethic in doing this.
Mhm.
I know that there's often, there's an emotional component to doing this work. I know there was for me. I know there are for other therapists who do this work. What was it like for you? What were some of the emotional challenges or shifts that you had to make as you went on to building your practice?
I think there's a bit of self-sacrifice for sure, for the idea of the greater good and what one person can do for a larger group of people, right? And self-sacrifice in the sense that it's going to cost you sleep, right? It's going to cost you time with other people. It's going to cost you relationships. But the greater good of what you can do is certainly worthwhile, right? To them. And then also to you, because you get to see what you're capable of that you really would have never imagined, right? I never imagined that this would be like me and my story, and that I get to kind of work this way. And that's been a great gift back from the universe to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's for everybody, honestly, because it takes a lot, right? There's really been hours. Like I don't even want to tell people the time that goes into it because I had a full-time job, right? I have 2 young children. I have a husband, a family, all of that stuff. So that means that I would still work full day. I would work, pick up the kids, do all that stuff in between. I would have the days that I work independently as a contractor, and then I'd have the days that I'm working on my business and, growing my team, supporting my team. But that means late hours, right? There's days that I'm up at like 1 doing things, right? To get up at 7. So it may not be for everybody, and that's okay. I think you have to figure out what works for you and what you're comfortable with, and stay true to that. And don't just chase everything just because, right? I happen to be very driven, and once a goal's in front of me, it's like, all right, we're gonna figure this out. But there's a good deal of sacrifice that comes with that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that because it's true. A lot of people think it's just, let me just do this. But no, there's so much work behind it that you have to commit to for the long term, right? Like,
Right.
you're not seeing the result you want.
Right.
Keep going, keep at it. How do you build what you have and continue to grow, right?
Absolutely. And that takes a lot of work. There's no way around it, right? Like, yeah, there's great strategies and stuff to support you, but at the core of it is work, it's consistency, it's how you show up in order to build to that point. There's no real magic to this. You just got to show up and be consistent.
Right.
And the bigger you want or the bigger you grow, the bigger it's going to be.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you were to chart your growth, what was your growth like from when you started until now? Like, how quickly did that change for you? I know you started 3 years ago. Was it, 2.5 years ago where you decided, you know what, I want to add all of these things? Or did it happen kind of gradually?
It's been gradual. I'm a woman of faith, and I think I'm grateful for the gradual growth because I think if someone would have said to me like, hey, you can go have a practice, with the staff that I have and things like that, and maybe even do coaching on top of your full-time job too. Be like, what? No, thank you. But I think that God is good at giving you small amounts so that you can really master that and really understand that, right? And develop your processes and things like that so that as you grow, it just makes more and more sense for you. So for me, it's been progressive. It started again as just like, I just want to have some extra money. I want to go on vacation.
Right.
But I was also very clear, and I'm just a little bit more of a goal-oriented person. And when I started, it was like, yo, I'm going to work for you for like a year, but I started under someone. I want to understand the business part of it, because maybe this is something I want to do one day, and I'm giving myself a year to learn that and do that. And where I was, that person wasn't as open with teaching, but I'm a learner, so I'm observing. I'm doing what I need to do to figure it out. And at that year, I was out, but I had clear goals. So I was saving my money. It wasn't about going on vacation all the time. You know, I may have like spent a little something, little co-pays, but the bulk, like, we're putting away because I know this is what I wanted to do. And at that year mark, I left, right? And I moved into a larger office suite. So it was me being in someone else's space to now having a 3-office suite. I met a great colleague randomly. It's a whole other story. And we ended up doing a lot of things together. And from there, I went into that, like, okay, well, let me see if I can make this a group model, right? Because again, I still wanted to teach other people and help them grow. And it started with like someone I knew that wanted to work with me, reaching out to find folks and growing the practice, like 2-3 people. So that was about like into year 2. And then it was a strong year 2. I think we added maybe 1 or 2 other people within that time. And by year 3, it was like, wow, this is really doing great. And I'm actually approaching the end of year 3 now, and our lease ended, and we're now in a larger space. So it's just been this like slow progression. I have a great team. Have really kind of fostered that and those relationships as well. And now it's coaching, where it's like, okay, like therapy isn't everything, and I still want to find a different way to serve. So now I'm building on the therapy, and not therapy, but transitioning into the coaching realm a bit. Within that, there's trainings. Within that, like, we consult with folks. I provide supervision. You know, the merchandise sort of line popped up, which is just kind of there in the background. So it's just been progressive. Like, wow, you've done this. This looks good. This makes sense as a next step. And I've just sort of taken those steps and rocked with that. And this is where I am coming up on year 3. And I left my day job.
I love it, Amanda. I love it.
Yeah.
And that must have just opened up like a whole new level of freedom for you, leaving your job.
Yes, it was. It was like emotional freedom, honestly, is what that felt like, because now I could work in a way that I wanted to, and now I could also get my time back, right? All those late hours I get to now shift into the day, and it's been like magical. But I see it as a privilege because I know not everybody can have this route, you know what I mean? So I get to drop my kids off. I could go for a walk afterwards. You know, I set my hours. I still work because it's still a lot of work, but I can freely nap. Nobody's looking for me. You know what I mean? So I can have light days, which is fine. I don't have excessive emails popping up. So, but I know not everyone can do that, right? And again, it may not be for everybody. So I do take it as like a privilege that I could work in this capacity.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely. And I hear you. It's so free, it's liberating.
It is.
You know, punching the clock that way anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And it's honestly like a model that should be across the board when it comes to work. I think folks really have to reevaluate work and how they work, because it's just not sustainable to like work people to the ground, and it really impacts the quality of our work, the quality of our life, you know? So I want the quality of my life back. I didn't want to be in a place where I regretted not trying and that I hated going to work, right? I reached a point where I just hated going to work, and I didn't want to live that.
I completely hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. So what has it been like for you being a therapist during the COVID pandemic? I mean, things have lightened up quite a bit now, or even going mask free quite often. A lot of people are vaccinated. Things have changed, but this has been a really difficult, you know, over a year. So what was that like for you being a therapist during that time?
I feel like nothing changed for me because like I didn't stop working.
Okay.
You know, it was just like that brief pause in the beginning to shift into the telehealth world. That we were still showing up for our clients, you know, at the same time looking at ways to support still just a heart of us, you know, folks in the community and how to do that. And then my day job, we were still rocking and rolling because, you know, it was an
Wow.
inpatient setting that does not, you know, shut down. So, you know, we were still going to work there. I think there were just moments where it was just a little anxiety provoking in the beginning because it was just so weird, right? And we just didn't know, you know, how to really keep ourselves safe and how to keep our families safe. So there were just those kind of tough moments. But otherwise, it was just like, we're going to work. It's all good, you know. And for me, it was also like maintaining like my schedule within that. I think some people kind of fluctuated their schedule and just saw people whenever and blah, blah, blah. But I kept my routine for me and for my clients. So we knew when we were showing up and I wasn't trying to fit you in all hours. I have enough work to do. So,
Yeah. So more of it sounds like it was just you really pivoting to doing online work more than anything. And being more present, it sounds like.
Yeah. And just keeping that routine.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So Amanda, you're doing so much. How do you take care of yourself while you're doing this work? What are some of the things that you do to make sure Amanda's okay?
Very good question. I definitely think there are moments where I have to be better at that because I do, you know, give a lot to the work itself. And I think I've had to kind of shift my mindset around that where like the rest is just as important. And I recognize I'm able to work better, be more creative when I am rested. And I just can't keep pushing out all the time. So it's kind of just stopping myself sometimes to tune into my body when my body's tired, really trying to find a space to rest. And have more time for that, which is just lovely in the day. But otherwise, I would say, again, just trying to keep some kind of routine for yourself, right? So for me, that includes a little bit of like physical exercise. I like moving. That's what works for me. Listening to music when I can, even if it's like between clients or like doing notes or something like that. And you know, you figure out what works for you and what's like motivating and encouraging. So a little bit of that. And I think that's really what it's been for me in the course of the year, but I definitely have to get more active and looking forward to more vacation time.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so two last things I want to throw in really quickly.
Sure.
What is your merchandise? And also, I know you have a course, coaching course that you're selling currently, right? That's really helpful to women. Can you tell us a little bit about those two things?
Yeah, sure. So just in the line of therapy is dope. Therapy is dope I really use to normalize mental health, if you will, particularly for minority communities. So there's a t-shirt associated with that, and that can be found on the website as well at amandafludd.com. I want to say it's /shop. And the course, it aligns with just I think just the goal of coaching to reach more folks and to just make this an everyday way to get the support that you need. So if you're someone that you're always in your head, most of us are, right? You're kind of overthinking your next move, even as professionals in particular, like we're horrible at that. And, you know, always that sense of like, am I enough, you know, which certainly popped up for me in the beginning. Of doing this, like, can I really do this? You know, do I really want to do this? You know, say it again.
I think it comes up for all of us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Colors.
Yeah, and I think even as the more you like grow, I think the more it pops up too. I think.
Yeah.
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 So
Absolutely.
yeah. So even like to the best of us, it gets us.
Right.
And that's okay. So for me, this is like a little reminder, pep talk of how to really look at your thinking, how to kind of get motivated, how to look at, you know, your time and what's taking your time and how to realign with that in a way that makes sense for you and really feel like your powerful self in whatever space that you need to kind of show up in. So we have two main programs, but the one that's coming up recently soon is our 4-week course. it's really self-paced, which is cool. You can really go at it at your pace, but I do hold you accountable to stick with things. A lot of us start things, buy things, but we don't do it, which is not
Yeah.
the experience I want for folks that do this course.
Mhm.
And so we're going to get you through the 4 weeks. Within that, there's at least 2 live calls where we get in, we talk, we make sure you get all the concepts and stuff. So it's a very similar to the model of therapy and like group work, but again, bringing those skills in an everyday way so you can really have more like lasting change in your life and
I love
some of
it.
the emotional things that come up for us.
It's
Yeah.
wonderful. If people are interested in purchasing the course, the coaching course for their own growth and healing, how can they find it and how can people find you?
So I'm at amandafludd.com, easy enough, right?
Mhm.
And Fludd, F-L-U-D-D. And you can certainly go there and take a look for therapy related things. If you do slash coaching, you'll find all our material for coaching and some different ways that you can work with us as well. And you'll find the course there under the Performance Academy. So those are some great ways to kind of connect with us, and you just kind of figure out where you are, see where you fit in, see where you need what you need. And you can always reach out, if you're not sure what you need, if you want support, as a clinician, as a woman, as a human, I'm always glad to talk. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Terrific, Amanda. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate you meeting with me and interviewing today. It's so great to hear about everything you're doing. So thank you.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. And follow me on Instagram too, both at Therapy is Dope and also at amanda.flood. Appreciate it.
Okay, terrific. And I'll definitely put those links in the clip too. So we will
Wonderful.
talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.